A hugely important organ to the digestive system is the pancreas. Um, Most people don't think of the pancreas as being a digestive organ, but the majority of the pancreas is involved exactly in that. It produces the enzymes that are required to hydrolyze the food molecules. Um, the it's found kind of along the greater curvature of the stomach and tucked into the duodenum. It's found retroperitoneally. It doesn't move very much. The tail goes all the way over to the spleen. So it's a fairly large uh, organ. Pan means all, creas means soft. So pancreas, it's an all soft organ. There's very little connective tissue structure to it. Uh, there is a little bit of endocrine function with insulin and glucagon, but most of it is exocrine, um, and it makes something called pancreatic juice. It's a bunch of repeating cells that look like this. They look like little berries. That's why they're called Ansener cells, and they secrete the enzymes. So it's the solution of the pancreatic juice is very alkaline, and its whole job, the alkalinity, exactly matches the acidity that the stomach has introduced to the chyme. Um, so it neutralizes it so that the walls of the small intestine don't get burnt by the acidity of the hydrochloric acid that was introduced in the stomach. There's a lot of bicarbonate, and that's how uh, it does it, because when you mix HCl with especially NaHCO3, you get H2O, CO2, and salt. So it neutralizes it very effectively. There are a bunch of enzymes, and the enzymes are very important. There are amylases, and amylases break down carbohydrates. Um, so they're involved with that. There are lipases that break down lipids. There are nucleases that break down nucleic acids into their C's and G's and A's and T's and U's, so that we can use them. Uh, and all of these are secreted in an active form. Um, and when they bind to the food molecules, they cause hydrolysis. Now, there are proteases. There are various enzymes that break down proteins, and they're secreted in an inactive form, because if they were secreted in an active form, then the protein walls of the ducts would start to break down. Um, so, so we call them inactive proteases. Um, there's there's a couple of three important ones, but two really important ones. Uh, so one is called trypsinogen, which will become trypsin, and it's activated when it comes into contact with brush border enzymes. So enzymes on that are part of the walls of the small intestine. So it squirts out, it mixes with the food, mixes with the chyme, and is activated by enzymes right at the site where it's going to be absorbed. There's procarbon oxypeptidases and chymotrypsinogen, uh, and they get activated by trypsin. So trypsin gets activated and then activates the other ones. So so really what happens here is these proteases get squirted out. There are enzymes that are part of the cells of the walls of the uh, small intestine, they actually then cause trypsinogen to become trypsin, and then that causes chymotrypsinogen to become chymotrypsin, and etc., and makes these main protein digesters break down. Now remember, the proteins started digestion by the pepsin in the stomach. Um, so the large proteins are already denatured and partially broken down by pepsin before they even get here, and are worked on by these proteases. Um, the bile is secreted out of this same sphincter, the sphincter vodi, and the ampulla, by having bile salts in circulation or fat in the chyme. That's probably the most common way of it being secreted. So the gallbladder contracts. There's a hormone called cholecystokinin that causes it to contract, and that's released by the enteroendocrine cells that are releasing that are coming into contact with fat in the chyme. Parasympathetic stimulation by the vagus nerve also helps it to do. So cholecystokinin will induce the secretion of the pancreatic juice at the same time, and so will vagal stimulation. Now, it basically works like this. It's all what's in the blood, what's in the chyme. So the chyme entering the duodenum causes you to release cholecystokinin, which then and secretin enters the bloodstream. Then that causes the secretion of the pancreatic juice and the bicarbonate, and then the bile salts are transported, and etc., etc. So it all works kind of as a feedback loop. I'm not going to go through all of the steps. Suffice it that it is self-regulatory. We don't need higher mental capabilities to make this happen. Now, it is modified by higher mental by being parasympathetic.